episode 491 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I will be talking all about tonight's AEW Dynamite 1 week before Dynamite Grand Slam next week in Arthur Ashe Stadium. Tonight featuring the finals of the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament. Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hey Wrestling Fanatics, welcome to 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Lance Brock here. It's Wednesday and you know what that means. Time to talk about AEW Dynamite. Tonight's episode, the go home show, I guess you could call it, before next week's Dynamite Grand Slam. And without any further ado, let's get into it. Tonight's AEW Dynamite was live from Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Heritage Bank Center. Our commentators tonight, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Taz. Dynamite starts off this week with a match for the AEW International Championship, and it is the champion Cincinnati, Ohio's own Jon Moxley taking on, representing Ricky Starks, Big Bill. And of course, Jon Moxley gets the huge hometown boy pop for his entrance. Everybody singing along with Wild Thing. And Big Bill gets the advantage first. Has him in the corner. He mocks the crowd a little bit. And gets him with some chops. But then Mox comes back with some chops of his own. Then Bill knocks Moxley out to the floor, and then Starks takes a cheap shot, doing some heel moves on the floor, and Bill attacks Moxley on the floor, but then Moxley makes a comeback, sends him into the steel steps, but then Bill does get the advantage back. He sends Moxley onto the timekeeper's table. And now at this time we go to a picture-in-picture break. Then when we come back, Moxley is bleeding. I know that's no surprise there to see Jon Moxley bleeding in a match. And they trade blows back and forth. The usual, when Moxley gets a punch in, they cheer. And then when Big Bill gets a punch in, they boo. Then Bill hits him with a boot. Then a lariat for a 2 count. Then a couple elbows. And gets a chokehold on him. And then Moxley hits a cutter, sending him to the outside. But then when Moxley goes to the top rope, Ricky Starks knocks him off. Bill hits a big boot, but Mox kicks out of that. And then at this time, we see the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, come out to take care of Ricky Starks. But then Starks sends Danielson into the steel steps. And Big Bill hits a chokeslam for a 2 count. And then Big Bill is able to lock in a triangle. Or Moxley is, I should say. Then Danielson keeps Starks from getting in the ring. Then Big Bill taps out. Moxley getting the submission win here to retain the AEW International Championship. I thought this one was a pretty good opener for Dynamite this week. Good match by Moxley. I talked about this morning on Good Morning Wrestling Fans that I like that they're kind of doing the similar thing when Orange Cassidy had the AEW International Championship, having him defend the title each week and be a fighting champion, but then each week he's a little more beat down and a little more wore down from the previous match. And also after the match, there's a post-match beatdown. But then the Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio Castagnoli comes out to make the save for the BCC. And it is announced that next week at Dynamite Grand Slam that Jon Moxley will be defending the AEW International Championship against Rey Fenix. That should be a pretty good match there. And in the back, the remarkable Renee Paquette is with Roderick Strong and the Kingdom. And then next up we have Tony Schiavone in the ring. And it is time for Don Callis to reveal his latest masterpiece for everyone. He comes out with Konosuke Takeshita, gets a lot of boos from the Cincinnati crowd, and talks about how they beat up Kenny Omega, how Takeshita pins Omega at All in London, then defeated him in the singles match at All Out. Really puts him over. He talks about the best wrestler in the company being called the Ace. But instead, Takeshita is now going to be known as the Alpha Konosuke Takeshita. Callis says, when you are the Alpha, you take everything that can be taken, and then you take a little more. Callis says beating Omega twice wasn't enough for them. After breaking his body, they will break his heart. Callis reveals the painting shows that Takeshita stabbing Kenny Omega's good friend Kota Ibushi with a sword, and then he says they aren't going to beat Ibushi, they are going to butcher him, and while they do that, Omega will be watching from home like the pathetic cook that he is. And Don Callis gives Takeshita a bouquet of roses, and then Takeshita shoves the roses into Tony Schiavone for some reason. And then next up, Alex Marvez is in the back with the Blackpool Combat Club. Bryan Danielson says they are all about escalating and challenging himself and Claudio Castagnoli against Big Bill and Ricky Starks. Claudio starts to cut a promo on Eddie Kingston at this time. They will be having a match at Grand Slam, but then Rey Fenix and Penta El Zero Miedo, along with Alex Abrahantes, come in. And Phoenix yells at Mox, says he's going to beat him next week. And then we see Eddie Kingston have a stare down with Claudio Castagnoli, and he just says, one more week. Their title versus title match will be taking place at Dynamite Grand Slam next week. And we go to the back once again with the remarkable Renee Paquette. This time she is with the FTW champion Hook. And she asks him how this championship feels. And then we see the former AEW International Champion, freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. He asks Hook what he's mad about. He's here, he can wrestle, and he doesn't have tape all over his body. Then he gets upset he gets upset that he used to be a champion. They call each other great champions, and then Hook walks away. Renee Paquette asks OC if he's doing okay, and then he just says, I'm still so tired. Next up, we have a 4-way elimination match. And the winner will receive a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship next week at Grand Slam against Saraya. And it is Toni Storm, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. This match I thought was pretty entertaining, and it is Toni Storm getting the win here. She will advance next week to Dynamite Grand Slam and face Saraya for the AEW Women's Championship. I give this match 3 out of 5 ring bells. And I thought this one was a good match. I'm sure Toni Storm and Saraya will have a pretty good title match next week on Grand Slam. And next up, we have the segment with the Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, and they talk about their issues, and they both get in each other's face and talk about their match next week, and then going after the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Next up, we see in the back, the medical team is looking at MJF's neck. And he's happy that he don't have to wrestle this week while Roderick Strong and Samoa Joe have to wrestle each other. And at this time now, MJF is fantastic. He cuts a promo that is almost just about the same as Scott Steiner's TNA Steiner Math promo. I'm sure most people have seen that promo by now, but just in case if for some reason you have not seen that promo from when Scott Steiner was in TNA, go to YouTube, search. I'm sure you could probably just search for Steiner Math promo. I'm sure it'll probably come up. Definitely watch that promo and then go back and watch tonight's promo by MJF. Very entertaining. I thought MJF did a great job with this tonight. It was great. Definitely enjoyed this. I think I become almost a bigger fan of MJF each week, and it's mostly because of his character work and stuff like this that we see from him on Dynamite. Next up, we have Brian Cage representing the Mogul Embassy with Prince Nana in his corner, taking on Hangman Adam Page. I thought this one was a pretty good match. Swerve Strickland ends up making his way out to the stage. And once again, we see Prince Nana dancing to the theme song of Swerve Strickland. And I have to admit, I definitely enjoy seeing Nana's dancing to the theme song of Swerve Strickland. And that's another thing. I don't know if people have videos on YouTube or anything of the part of the entrance that is just Prince Nana's dancing, but search for that in case there is. Very entertaining by Prince Nana. And back to the match. Hangman Adam Page gets the win over Brian Cage. Pretty good match. I'll give it 3 out of 5 ring bells. I thought this was a pretty fun match. And then after the match, Page gets on the mic and cuts a promo on Swerve. And he asks him how he enjoyed watching him kick Cage's A. Remember, this is a podcast for years of all ages. And Swerve and Hangman will be taking place at Wrestle Dream October 1st on pay-per-view. Renee Paquette is backstage with Daniel Garcia, and doesn't really say too much. And they announce that Chris Statlander will be defending the AEW TBS Championship against the returning Jade Cargill this Friday night on Rampage on TNT. Tag team action is up next. Darby Allin and Nick Wayne taking on 2.0, Cool Hand Angelo Parker, and Daddy Magic Matt Menard with Jake Hager and Anna Jay in their corner. Pretty fun tag team match here, I thought. And it is won by Allin and Wayne. And now time for the main event of Dynamite this week. The finals of the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament. Roderick Strong, and he has the Kingdom, Mike Bennett and Matt Taven in his corner, taking on the Ring of Honor World Television Champion Samoa Joe. I thought this was a really good match. They really worked the whole angle of Roderick Strong having the neck injury with the neck brace, and the commentators even point out that he's probably just faking it. And I thought this was a great main event this week. Samoa Joe gets the win with a submission, and we'll move on to Dynamite Grand Slam next week and face the AEW World Champion Maxwell Jacob Friedman MJF. Then post-match, we see Samoa Joe on the mic. He says his prophecy has come true, and next week he is coming to MJF's backyard, and he is going to beat him up and take everything he has. And he really puts over the fact in this promo that he will be taking everything from MJF. Then we see Adam Cole come out, and when Strong sees Cole come out, he falls down on purpose, acting like his neck is seriously hurt, and he keeps yelling, Adam, 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 over and over. The Kingdom are checking him out, and they call the EMTs to the ring, and they put him on a stretcher while he keeps yelling, Adam. Cole trying to check on him, and then the Kingdom won't let him. They stop him. They pretty much talk about it being Adam Cole's fault. And as the EMTs are taking Roderick Strong to the back on the stretcher, the Kingdom go with him. Adam Cole is standing on the stage right by the entrance. Then Samoa Joe comes up from behind him, gets him in a Conquista clutch, chokes him out, and Cole passes out. Then Joe says into the camera to MJF again how he's going to take everything from him to get ready for Dynamite Grand Slam next week. I thought this was a pretty interesting angle. I'm not sure if they're gonna sell this injury from the Conquista clutch and have Adam Cole not be on Dynamite next week and not be there for his partner MJF, or if he will still be there but just sell the injury a bit. And I'm sure they're going to have Roderick Strong keep selling this neck injury as part of the angle. I really don't see Samoa Joe beating MJF next week at Dynamite Grand Slam, but you never know. I am definitely looking forward to the match, though. And that was tonight's AEW Dynamite on TBS. I thought it was a really good episode of Dynamite tonight. Live from Cincinnati. As usual, had some good wrestling on it. Really good matches. I thought it had some good promos as well. And next week, Dynamite Grand Slam should be another great show. The main event for the AEW World Championship, MJF versus Samoa Joe. I definitely plan on having a new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic after that. And since this is a special episode, Grand Slam, I might do a live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Not sure just yet as of right now if I will be, but I am thinking about it. So stay tuned during the next week to 360 Wrestling Fanatic to find out. And before I wrap up tonight's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, since unfortunately I did not have a new episode last night, I just want to talk real quick about last night on NXT. Becky Lynch defeated NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton to win the NXT Women's Championship. And I have to admit that I actually was a little surprised by that. I've talked about it on the podcast before, how I did expect them to get to that match. It just happened a little sooner than I thought it would. And then yesterday morning on Good Morning Wrestling Fans, I talked about how I didn't think Becky Lynch would be winning the title from Tiffany Stratton. Either Stratton would either defeat her or by cheating, and or either get herself disqualified or counted out just some way so she could retain the title and then eventually have a rematch. I know No Mercy is the next NXT PLE, but instead last night they had the man Becky Lynch go over and defeat Tiffany Stratton for the NXT Women's Championship. Big fan of Becky Lynch, but not really sure if I'm a fan of this decision or not. I have to admit, Tiffany Stratton right now is one of the few things that I actually do enjoy about NXT, which I know I've said this a lot on the podcast, and don't mean any disrespect by it. I'm not trying to be one of those mean, know-it-all internet wrestling fans, but out of all the pro wrestling TV shows on TV or streaming today, I would probably say the one I'm least interested in is NXT. And but Tiffany Stratton, though, I think is great. And I think they should have put or kept the women's title on her at least a little longer. Speaking of things that I do enjoy about NXT, Carmelo Hayes. I do enjoy him. I thought he's been doing very well as the NXT champion. And actually, Thea Hale. I actually do like her. She is kind of having this angle now where she might be leaving Chase U, which I think is a good thing. Because the switch over, not trying to be too negative, but something that I do not care for too much about NXT, and that is Chase U. Other than Thea Hale, I just don't get this whole thing. I just think the whole angle, the whole gimmick is just, I'll just say not that good, because I don't want to be too negative, like one of those know-it-all internet wrestling fans that just like to go on the internet, complain and cry about everything. But it's not very good. And also another thing, that this might be an unpopular opinion, but another one that I don't really care for that much on NXT is Ilya Dragunov. I wouldn't say that it's really because he's that bad. I just don't get him. I just really can't get into him at all. It's just almost like he's just, I don't know if I would say boring, but it's just, I have no interest in him, and just doesn't do anything for me. Like I said, that might be an unpopular opinion, but I just wanted to give a few of my thoughts about NXT. And that's usually why sometimes I don't do a new episode on Tuesday nights of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, like I was doing almost just about every week when the season of Dark Side of the Ring was going on. So maybe if Dark Side of the Ring does come back for another season, I might go back to talking about it every week. But we will have to just wait and see. Have a match announcement. Minoru Suzuki versus Jacob Fatu is set for Major League Wrestling Slaughterhouse. That should be a pretty fun match to watch right there. Longtime board member of WWE President / CFO Frank Riddick is leaving the company. That was announced today. Also, the 2024 WWE Royal Rumble has been announced for Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay, Florida. And that is about all the news I have on this Wednesday night. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and that is all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hope to be back tomorrow night talking about Impact 1000, celebrating 1000 episodes of Impact Wrestling. But I will be back before then, tomorrow morning, for the Thursday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. So hope everyone else listening right now will tune in as well tomorrow morning. And remember, if you have any questions or comments or just want to say anything, you can also leave your feedback for tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite in the comment section right here on Spreaker, YouTube, or whichever podcast app you listen to on. Also, hashtag Ask360, the question of the week, which I started this week. Very simple question. I don't know why I haven't got any answers yet. It's not like it's a rocket science brain surgery question. All you have to do is answer on Twitter. Sorry, but it's just, who is your favorite pro wrestler of all time? Probably because I'm not one of the good podcasts. People only like to listen to the good ones. They don't give the bad ones a chance. All you have to do is answer the question just on Twitter, X, or here in the comment section. But no, people just rather listen to the good ones because they're lazy. Who's your favorite pro wrestler of all time? Just go to Twitter or X, whatever you call it these days, and use hashtag Ask360. Also, here in the comment section on Spreaker, YouTube, or whichever podcast app you listen to, you can also email your answer to me, 360 Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com, and I'll read the answers probably this Sunday on Good Morning Wrestling Fans, if I even get any. Probably won't, so this will probably be the first and only time I do this stupid thing. I was just trying something new, but no, don't get no answers. Sorry. Just, I don't know why people only like to listen to good podcasts and not the bad ones too. Like mine, the terrible ones. Should give all podcasts a chance. And that's all for tonight. Once again, I'll talk to everyone tomorrow morning. But until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.